8 million tons of plastic are dumped into our oceans every year. But now designer Katarina Unger and Utrecht University are cooking up a tasty solution. They're injecting fungi onto the plastic.
This is unusual.
And holy moldy, the plastic is gone, leaving behind an edible mushroom cup.
Functional fungi. I love it.
How are these magic mushrooms taking plastic to the plate?
This is called the fungi mutarium. It takes fungi that can break down the plastic and convert it into something we can eat.
They feed the plastic into little white cups, which are actually made from agar. That's powdered seaweed combined with glucose and starch. After adding the plastic to the cup, they add the mycelium, the tiny root-like parts of 2 different types of mushrooms.
After a few days, the fungi start to colonize the agar cups. They feed on all of the nutrients inside of the agar, and they release enzymes that begin to break down the plastic.
After a few months, the fungi have grown over the surface of the entire cup, leaving no plastic, just an agar cup covered in a fluffy white fungus that's also edible. The fungi don't accumulate any toxic waste products from the plastic, so once the plastic is gone, in theory, the fungus is safe to eat. By adding different ingredients and spices to the base, they can give the fungi a variety of different flavors. Mmm, fluffy white science garbage mushroom.
It's the halfway point in our countdown, and so far we've seen scary birds.
Look at the birds.
A sleepy bird, and a bathtub flying with the birds. Now we're taking off again for number 10. We're in California, where Dennis Sanders is piloting his historic Sea Fury fighter plane.
Look at that smoke spinning.
I've never seen this before.
Using smoke machines attached to the wings, unusual spirals appear behind the plane.
This physics is smoking.
How does the Sea Fury create smoke spirals?
This guy is so clever because he's able to show us something that happens every time we fly, but we can't see.
To make a plane fly, the wings are shaped in such a way that the action of the wind flowing over them creates higher pressure underneath and lower pressure above.
But at the wingtips, the high-pressure air spills over into the low-pressure air region on the top of the wings. But as it passes away from the wing, this air is then forced downward again, forming spirals that trail away from the wingtips. These are called wingtip vortices.
The smoke gets caught up in these vortices, and these counter-rotating vortices can last for several seconds.
By adding smoke, he's turned something that usually happens into something that looks very unusual.
We're off to North Carolina, where our... This is amateur photographer James York, getting unusually close to a bull elk.
These elk are really big. You do not want to make one of them mad.
Unfortunately, it seems that's exactly what James does.
It's a little scary. When a photographer and a subject have creative differences, sooner or later, they're gonna butt heads.
80 million people watch this 600-pound elk go head-to-head with James.
Whoa. Those are some large antlers.
I promise you some of that hurt.
We're with James in North Carolina to find out what it's like to lock horns with this big beast.
When the elk headbutted me and it was getting more aggressive, my mind was a whir with what the hell is going on. I was shocked and scared at that point. Time just did slow down. When you're in a crisis, every moment is a minute.
But why does this elk joust with James?
Despite being against the law, visitors to the park often feed the elk, which has slowly conditioned these wild animals to seek food from humans.
When no food is on offer, the elk starts to become more aggressive and starts headbutting James with its antlers.
Now those antlers are an extension of the elk's skull. They're extremely hard, and the elk could damage James if it wanted to. It doesn't really want to because a damaged James can't give the elk food.
James responds by lowering his head. which may have been a big mistake. This clip was filmed during fall, which is the breeding season.
This is a time when male elk are filled with more testosterone and are therefore more aggressive.
The breeding display put on by male elks is called the rut. A standard behavior of elks is to lower their heads and lock antlers. And so when James lowered his head, the elk may have thought it was a challenge, and so he continued his aggressive actions.
When I didn't feel I was in imminent danger or my life was in threat, I did try and get a couple of shots up close. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I'd been sitting for so long, my legs were falling asleep. A ranger pulled up and I got in his car and it was done.
And after 7 minutes, James escapes with nothing more than a sore head.
The moral of the story is don't feed wild animals. And if an elk approaches you, instead of lowering your head, just walk away and try to go somewhere else.
There's nothing unusual about these pencils. But when psychologist Dr. Richard Wiseman places this plastic over them one way,
now you see them, now you don't.
The 4 pencils underneath disappear. And when turned the other way, the 2 in the front disappear.
Wow!
And it seems to be breaking Tom's brain.
Having seen it several times, I can conclude it's the work of wizards.
What's the secret to Richard's disappearing act?
This piece of plastic is something called a lenticular lens. On one side of it are loads of little half tubes all arranged parallel.
The little half tubes has the effect of refracting the light at different angles. When the parallel lines of tubes in the plastic are aligned with the pencils, the light from the pencils gets scattered in all directions.
And what our eye sees is a combination of the color of those pencils and all the ambient light that's coming off from the table. And so, in effect, what we get is a blurry image, and the pencils disappear.
However, if the tubes are now at right angles to the direction of the pencils, we get a very different effect.
On this orientation, the lens only spreads the light out in one direction. Even the crossing point, it's seeing light from somewhere else on the pencil, making it look like it's on top.
Science is really about seeing things through the right lens.
Now, let's get this party started under the Pacific Ocean.
Disco clam!
The source of this underwater light show is a mollusk known as the disco clam.
This clam is clearly the disco queen of the sea.
To enlighten us, it's over to our very own disco diva, Adam.
This is the Tonoides allis, or disco clam. The disco clam looks electric, but there is no electricity involved. The parts that appear to be flashing are the edges of its mantle, the fleshy lining on the inside of its shell.
On the edge of the mantle is a folded lip that can rapidly curl and uncurl to expose both of its sides.
The inward side of the lip is highly reflective because it's covered in tiny nanospheres of silica which reflects all wavelengths of light. So in daylight, the inside of the lip appears white.
The outward part of the mantle absorbs blue-green wavelengths, so we see it as red. The clam has muscles that pull the lip back and forth rapidly, so it alternates between red and white several times a second, and it makes it look to us like a flashing disco light.
But what's the reason for this dazzling display?
This kind of display is thought to deter predators like fish, crabs, octopi, and mantis shrimp. This rapid lip movement occurs all the time, twice a second, even in the dark. But when there's a change in the light, such as the shadow of a predator passing over the clam can increase this rapid lip movement to 5 times per second.
For this clam, it's all about staying alive, and you can't get